Hello and welcome to Amonkhet and the Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Day. By which I mean this is gathering information, bringing you the knowledge pool.
Yes.
Yes.
We're having a delightful day, though.
Yes.
Beautiful here.
We are going to be talking about some Hour of Devastation spoilers, which is why I mentioned the No Good, Very Bad Day.
That is what's happening there.
It does seem like things have gone a bit downhill since we last touched base.
Well, I mean, maybe it's just sort of come out into the open more.
Well, yeah.
I think the Planeswalkers are having one not great time.
Possibly
And
5
gods.
not great times.
Yes. And the gods are like, oh no. Oh no. We thought we were omnipotent and amazing.
From some of the artwork, it appears that they do not all quite
Survive,
make it.
yeah.
That is sad.
I mean, indestructible doesn't mean death-proof. Well, it does mean death-proof, but kind of.
Yeah, and here's the thing. I really hope... I'm torn with Gideon because there have been rumors that he's going to die. And I kind of want him to die just for the punchline of one of this magic comic that I've been working on. But I don't want him to die because I kind of like him, so, you know.
I kind of like him, too. And actually, like, people give Gideon a sort of hard time because he's a bland white planeswalker and a dude who's just sort of...
Beefcake!
I mean, I think that's especially true of people like myself who don't follow the stories.
Sure.
Because through just what comes through on the cards, that's kind of what he looks like.
But as a planeswalker, he's actually fairly interesting in that he's one of the only ones who actually becomes a creature. Him and now Sarkhan, but...
Sure, but the problem is he always becomes a creature.
But he seems as a person very noble and trying to do
that's
what's
what
right.
And... All right, we're getting off track here. Welcome to episode 17. Yes, haha.
We are 4 months plus.
Are we? Yes, we are. Sweet.
It's been fun so far.
So, hey guys, how's your week been?
Pretty good. We're going to get there soon with all sorts of updates of what we're doing.
But first...
We've had ourselves, though, a bunch of nonsense weather.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. We had a tornado warning. So here's the hilarious, it's kind of a side trip a little bit, though it involves gaming, sort of. Step and I were out of the house, and we decided to go polka hunting, because...
Like you do when you're giant nerds. Yeah.
And hey, I just got a...
What is it? The Fire and Ice event?
Yes.
And the thing is, I didn't get a phone that could run Pokemon Go until a number of months ago, so it's brand new to me. So
when we started the podcast,
actually. So I'm allowed to be excited still. So we were out, and we were on University of Western campus, and we hear this, what sounds like an air raid signal. Siren,
yeah. You'd think that would have tipped us off that maybe there was something going on.
So we roll down the windows, and you hear, conductor speak. And we're like, okay, sure. So we keep driving. And then I think I messaged you, Laura, and you were like, oh, yeah, that's what happens when there's a tornado warning. And we're like,
I had tried to call both of you.
I know. We had been charging our phones.
Because I know that neither of them really listen to the radio much. And that's the way that you'd normally hear about it.
So there we are, I was wondering why everybody's like walking really fast and we're like driving, hey, look, there's a Pokemon. It would have been hilarious if we turned the corner and been like, hey, look, there's a tornado.
Yeah, hilarious.
I would have found it very interesting. But anyway, so it's been crazy here.
Lots of thunderstorms.
And it's been, I guess, unseasonably cool or not warm. I mean,
which is nice. Last week we were just off a heat wave.
Yeah, and now this week, I mean, it felt real muggy this morning. Like, it felt like, oh, this is going to be a stinker of a hot day. And then the sun came up, and suddenly the humidity went away, and then it was nice and just breezy.
It's been beautiful.
Yeah. We have like a tropical breeze kind of thing.
We have the windows open and it's so nice.
Yes, you can tell we're Canadian by the fact that discussing the weather is actually a hobby up here.
It really is. It really is.
It
there's sayings in Canada, don't like the weather, wait 5 minutes. It's like that.
Canadians do statistically talk about the weather more than most other places.
Because it's always relevant to your daily life.
Yeah,
that is
true. Changes a lot.
That's true.
Anyway, let's get back to the Magic Land.
Yes.
Hey, Laura, what's going on in the news?
Well, there have been some spoilers lately about this new set that we have coming out called Hour of Devastation. So, like we may have mentioned previously, it does look like the 12 plagues have descended upon Amonkhet.
I am kind of happy that this is where they're going with it because, they have to be resonant with Egypt.
Oh, absolutely they do. That's the whole point of the set.
And while the plagues aren't actually an Egyptian story, they're a story that is centered in Egypt.
Well, it's very strongly associated. Like, we all grew up with that kind of biblical fable.
Yeah.
Even if we weren't told it directly, it's just kind of in the culture.
So, watching the Hour of Devastation trailer and seeing locusts descending on Noctamon, I'm like, oh, yes. And then we see this man right here, the Locust God.
I am so excited about this card.
It's, first of all, blue-red, which is why she's so excited about it.
Even though I realize that I am not typically a red player, I do have a... I mean a blue player, sorry, not a red player. Whoa, Freudian slip! So I'm not generally a blue player. I do have a Karanos Commander deck.
And it's disgusting.
And I do...
And like I think we've mentioned before, blue-red was actually your, like, primary color combo just because of burn.
And because it was the first thing that when I came back, we had a deck. We had the Izzet versus Golgari decks.
Yep.
And I played the Izzet deck. And I discovered the love for that red-blue interaction. So, and the fact that even in Limited, this seems pretty strong if you draft it.
I would say particularly in Limited.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is just the way that it interacts with the other god that's been spoiled, which is the Scorpion God. Because with the Scorpion God, whenever a creature with a -1/-1 counter on it dies, you can draw a card. And then with the Locust God, whenever you draw a card, you get to create a 1/1 blue and red flying insect token with haste.
And we should mention here, too, that these are the first gods that do not have some form of indestructible.
Well,
now, they do have repeatability.
Absolutely, but they're not indestructible.
Yeah, well, especially because it does go to the graveyard.
Yes.
So it will interact with something like Scarab Beast, which allows you to exile cards from the graveyard at instant speed.
That's true. Now, they are gods. They are legendary creature gods, but they're not named characters. And they are mythics. Yeah.
And so the interesting thing is just there is a confirmed blue-black version of it to fill out the Grixis combinations, and people are kind of speculating that it might complete the cycle of that -1/-1 counter draw a card type of thing, which allows you to like destroy a creature with a -1/-1 counter on it.
So I want to talk for a second about this being a self-contained cycle that is not in the 5 colors. And it is not, it's not like a horizontal cycle, one in each color. And it's not a vertical cycle, one at each rarity.
Right, so this is pure speculation still, but...
But it does look like a complete cycle.
Yeah.
Which, at least, and I'm one of those completionists, if there is going to be a blue-black one that completes that cycle, then that feels right to me. Especially in a Nicol Bolas-based set.
Especially because one of his minus abilities usually allows you to destroy a creature, or his plus ability usually allows you to destroy a creature. So it feels very much like an ability it would have.
Yeah, destroy a creature, take a creature, make your opponent do nasty stuff is sort of his wheelhouse. So I'm excited to see what it's going to be. Do we have any speculation on what kind of creature? Like, we've got the Locust God and the Scorpion God.
I don't know. So blue-black, we already have, spoiler alert, a legendary Sphinx creature. So probably not that.
I'm wondering if it's going to be another plague kind of thing, like another... Scorpions aren't insects, but...
I mean, maybe it'll just be a zombie card, or because zombies are historically blue-black.
Well, zombies are blue-black on Innistrad because they're like...
That's true. I mean, zombies here are white, but...
I don't know.
Could be interesting. Or it could be, there were a lot of, like, insects and demons.
Maybe it's a beetle.
Maybe a beetle. That could fit a beetle crab. Maybe it's going to be a cat beetle.
I like it, but then it would have to be green.
Of course.
Of course.
So maybe it's going to be a beetle crab. However, there is a green card that I'm super excited about.
Me too.
Yeah, you too?
Oh, yeah.
We're talking about Pride Sovereign, are we?
I'm building a standard cat deck. I don't care how stereotypical it is.
Me first.
Screw you both. I'm already half built.
See, it's just, it is exactly kind of what you want.
It screams at me, what is it, linear, like just throw all the cats.
Build me. I mean, it's not going to be like you build all the cats and then you build it in with just a couple of, anthems and you have a deck.
So we were, of course, talking about Pride Sovereign. It's 2 and a green for a 2/2 cat. It gets +1/+1 for each other cat you control.
Mm-hmm.
Those 1/1 kitties seem so much better right now.
Oh, yeah. Therical seems pretty great, too.
And it does have an activated ability. But first, I was trying to figure out how to talk about this. What would you call that? It gets +1/+1 for each other cat. It's like the inverse corollary of a lord. Lords give other things +1, so this is what, a glutton? A cat glutton? I don't know. But then it has an activated ability, white, and tap it, and exert it.
Yeah, so that's one of the new mechanics for the set. And I say new in quotation marks because, of course, exert is not a new mechanic. But the ability to exert a creature outside of combat for an actual activated ability as a cost is new. And it's just an interesting take on it.
So neat, yeah.
Okay, so leaving the ability alone for a second, I want to talk about this, actually. We're kind of doing this out of order. My fault. This is one of the reasons that I'm a little sad to see small sets go away, because this is exactly the kind of interaction that I like to see from large set, small set. We're seeing a mechanic return in a completely different context than what it was before. This is not a combat ability, and in Amonkhet, exert was specifically a combat ability.
That's true, but that doesn't mean that they won't be able to do this. They've already said they're probably going to spend multiple sets on certain planes that they feel, need the extra time.
Yeah.
And so they're obviously going to have some form of thematic tie-in. Because otherwise you wouldn't feel like you're on the same set, and that would defeat the purpose, or on the same plane.
Possibly. I doubt they're going to reuse mechanics very often because...
Well, this isn't reusing it, though.
It's reusing the same mechanic.
It's not reusing it. It's just using it in a different way, which I can definitely see them doing between different sets if they're set on the same plane.
They're reusing it in a different way, but they're still reusing the same keyword. And with the move to only large sets, I imagine that they're going to have completely separate design teams.
I wouldn't think so. Not if they're supposed to be, again, on the same plane. That was the whole point of the change, was to allow them to do multiple sets on the same plane when was called for.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
so
I guess
obviously
we'll
just have to see, yeah.
Anyway, back to the ability. Pay a white, tap and exert Pride Sovereign to create 2 1/1 white cat creature tokens with lifelink. So
do this, and suddenly it's a 4/4, and it came with a couple of little friends.
Yeah.
And since green and white happen to have most of the ways to untap a creature in tricks.
Yeah, that's fair. They have cats historically. They have the tricks. There are, 3 of them in Amonkhet that untap a creature?
There's Resolve, there's these Spidery Grasp, there's Synchronized Strike.
So 3 so far.
Prepare to Fight.
So, yeah, more than enough to...
And not only that, if you went Banned, and you had, Vizier of the Tumbling Sands, which just untaps permanents for fun.
Yeah.
And then you could throw, Tameo in there, and...
Oh, this sounds like it's going to be sweet.
So, yeah.
I can't wait.
It seems fun. I think they've definitely decided to embrace a bit of just going for it.
Mm-hmm. So where do we want to go next?
So a couple of the other things we wanted to talk about, we did mention Exert as a returning-ish mechanic. Other returning mechanics are Cycling.
Yep, Cycling is returning.
Aftermath. We also see kind of the payoff for the desert synergy that had previously been mentioned on cards. Like Shafet Monitor allows you to basic cycle for a land or a desert.
Yep.
And now we have cards that interact with having deserts on the battlefield or in your graveyard, or both.
So we have a cycle of colored deserts that are just single color, enter tapped, but they have cycling.
Yeah, for a 1 and a white if it's the white land, blue if it's blue land.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
they seem pretty neat.
That looks interesting. I kind of like that looking at the art. Are these the monuments?
I think so.
And they're now just lands because the monuments have been wrecked by Bolas.
Oh, yeah.
What was the desert synergy?
Oh, so there's creatures that will allow you to do things like deal damage to a creature if you have a desert, or they get +1/+1.
Right. So it's a mechanic, but not a named mechanic.
Right. So that's also pretty interesting. And we have a couple of new mechanics. So starting off, I guess we have Eternalize.
Okay. Do we have something that reads Eternalize?
Yes.
So Eternalize is cost. Exile this card from your graveyard to create a token that's a copy of it, except it's a 4/4 black zombie.
So basically that reads Embalm, except it's more expensive and it turns it into a 4/4 black zombie.
Instead of it was white zombie.
Yeah. So it does keep all of the same abilities of the original creature, though, just like Embalm did.
Interesting. That I don't really care.
Well, here's the thing. I only see this one creature, so...
So let's talk about Dreamstalker.
Can I finish what I was about to say?
Are you going to
not
need
about
that
this
for context?
Not this creature specifically. Okay. Just, it's a 1/2 creature. My thinking is, if this... Now, we haven't seen a lot of this mechanic yet, but if it is on aggressive cards, it will give them the ability to move into late game.
All right.
Which I think could be kind of really... For somebody like me who loves to play aggro until there's somebody really controlling and then they smash my face because I have no late game.
Sure, but let's use this example. When would you ever play a 3-mana 1/2 in that deck?
I wouldn't, but I'm hoping that it's going to be on... Now, this is a menace? What else does it do?
So, Dreamstalker is a 2 and a black for a 1/2 human wizard with menace. And when it deals combat damage to a player, that player discards that many cards.
So if it deals 1 damage, they discard 1. If it's a 4/4 and they deal 4 to you, you discard 4, not that you'll have that many in the late game.
Which, considering the Eternalize is 4 black, they're not going to have any cards, basically, in most cases. Although this does seem good against those control decks then, because the Eternalize can't be countered very easily.
Sure,
and then it'll make them pitch a whole bunch.
I mean, to be fair, of all the keywords it could have, Menace is probably the most useful.
Yeah. There's also, I don't know if it had an official spoiler, but we had the Adorned Pouncer was...
Yes, it was officially spoiled.
It's a cat.
Okay. So, yeah, it's a cat. It's a 1/1 for 1 and a white, so that doesn't seem great. But it has double strike.
So would you play 2-mana 1/1 with double strike in Amonkhet?
Yes.
Some of the stuff I've been seeing online on the Gatherer and places like that are people saying this is going to see modern play, this card. That it's really sweet and is going to see modern play.
It might see modern play. Well, it probably will see modern play. But in Amonkhet, considering how many 1 toughness things there were, or how many things were 2 toughness with, or 3 toughness with a Splendid Agony up, and then this thing just walks through them.
It also dies to Splendid Agony.
It does, but if the double strike, having first strike makes it better in that case.
And
so
it's a cat, so it has that synergy, hopefully.
So it also has Eternalize for 3 white.
So would you pay 5 mana for a 4/4 double strike?
Yes. Every day.
Sweet Lord,
all day.
So it'll be interesting to see whether or not this is just playable on the surface, or if you would like to play it with some ways to get it into your graveyard, like self-mill or discard. But, I mean, it seems pretty sweet.
Yeah. I don't know. That looks like it might be one of the most playable, not having the whole set yet, of the Eternalize cards, and that's probably why they gave it a full art. Looks like there's going to be a promo.
That's true. They did that with the True Heart Duelist, which is also considered to be quite a good 2-drop.
Yeah. So, is this going to be the buy a box promo, or is...
Maybe. That's usually the first one I spoil. But the other new mechanic is Afflict.
Afflict. So, there's a particular one that I want for Afflict, because we've got Neheb the Eternal.
I thought we already had Neheb.
We had Neheb the Worthy. Apparently, what he was worthy for, we have now found out. And he's worthy for eternity.
Or something. Well, no, I think it's more that Bolas stripped the those who were deemed worthy of their powers from the cartouches, and then stomped on their faces from what it looked like.
Could be. So he is a 4/6 legendary creature, zombie minotaur warrior for 3 red. So 5 mana, 4/6. Okay. He has Afflict 3. And what that reads is, whenever this creature becomes blocked, defending player loses 3 life. So Afflict 1 would be 1 life, Afflict 5 would be 5 life. This feels familiar to me.
Yeah, it seems familiar to me as well. We did have the that red alpha card from the Innistrad set, where whenever it blocked a creature or was blocked, the opponent took 3 damage.
Mm-hmm. I may be thinking of a bunch of green creatures that I like that basically have don't care about blockers.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Spinebiter is my favorite infect. It gets through. It can deal its damage as though it weren't blocked. Mm-hmm. So this mechanic feels very green to me, but that's because of my associations.
So what do you think, Tams?
It seems fairly strong.
So first, what do you think of the mechanic, the Afflict mechanic?
I think it's cool. It's like you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't.
Mm-hmm.
And on a creature like that, which is, of course, a mythic, but a 4/6, that's going to be hard to block effectively with one creature.
And if you don't, you're taking 4 to the face.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that seems pretty sweet all around. I mean, he's got a great big butt, so the removal's going to be hard to get at him.
Yep. Now, I think the way this works, it says whenever this creature becomes blocked. So that doesn't count the number of blockers. It's just like, this is now blocked.
Yeah, I would think so.
Or not blocked. We might want to get a judge ruling on that, but I think that's how it works. It's either blocked or not blocked. Otherwise, I think they'd have worded it differently. But Neheb also has another ability. At the beginning of your post-combat main phase, add red to your mana pool for each 1 life your opponent has lost this turn.
Oh.
Yeah.
So, ramp in red is always interesting, but this is a nice way to do it. It's like, if I hit you, I get a benefit.
And if I don't hit you, and you block, I get a benefit.
Yeah.
Though, really, by the time you have double red and 3, is it really still considered ramping?
A good point. What that will allow you to do is use a combat trick and then also play a creature.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Can you
mono
imagine
red,
this
that's not...
brute strength?
Yeah. God, yeah.
Like it's blocked and it deals damage with the trample.
Oh, that's gross.
You're welcome.
So each one that you're... Yeah, any way to give this guy trample seems really gross.
Yeah, so the other thing to keep in mind, it is your opponent loses life, so you can't redirect it to planeswalkers.
Yeah.
That's fair. Yep. Speaking of planeswalkers, it looks like the planeswalkers are having a no good, very bad day.
Boy, howdy.
There's a cycle of defeats, which has been spoiled.
They're color specific.
And planeswalker specific.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so to me, this doesn't seem like it's going to be very good in limited.
No.
But they're certainly going to be strong sideboard choices.
It could be, potentially, some of them.
In standard,
yeah. Like the green one allows you to just destroy, a green creature.
Yeah. Gideon's defeat, I mean, if the Gideon deck is still running around, that's probably pretty good.
So the Planeswalker clause really doesn't matter at all, but each of these spells should be, like... looked at individually, because I think Gideon's defeat, exile target white creature that's attacking or blocking for a single white, seems pretty strong as a sideboard option.
Absolutely. They're all really good as sideboard options.
For sure.
Kind of like, because didn't Theros have a similar cycle?
Yes, it had a cycle of same color hosers. There was a counter blue, there was an exile white, there was, so similar. I think they were uncommons, though, like they weren't particularly strong.
I think these are uncommons.
Yep.
You're right. Okay, never mind. So very similar then.
Yeah, I think that's nice, so.
But I like that they're thematic.
Yeah.
They look like Bolas is just wrecking everything.
And he is. And then, kind of the other mechanic which isn't really a mechanic, is the land exert.
Yeah, so Bantu's Last Reckoning was the first one that was spoiled with this. Mm-hmm. 1 black, destroy all creatures.
And if you stop there, I'm very impressed.
Yeah, sorcery speed evens just fine.
Sure.
And then it has the clause, lands you control don't untap during your next untap step. So
there are a couple of different... I mean, I think it partly depends on what your game plan is. So for black, let's say that you're in an aggressive type of deck. The plan is you destroy your opponent's board, and then if this is, middle to late game and you have a couple mana left over, you can play a couple more creatures. Mm-hmm. None of your lands will untap your next turn, but you'll still have stuff on the board.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, or you can hold up a kill spell for what they play, and then, sure, you don't have your next turn, but, whatever.
They're not doing anything either.
This is not the only card that has this, though. Bantu's Last Reckoning is one. Oketra's Last Mercy, so this looks like it's going to be another cycle.
Yep.
Is 1 white for a sorcery. Your life total becomes equal to your starting life total. Lands you control don't untap during your next untap step.
So, great in Commander.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. Possibly great in Limited.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, of course, you would want to have the right deck for it.
Maybe. I think that at least with Oketra's Last Mercy, that's 3 mana, and you're probably not casting it on turn 3.
Oh, no.
So you're going to have multiple lands that are still untapped, which you can then use the next turn. So it's not as much of a downside as, like, wrathing and then being able to do nothing.
Yeah.
But I like the idea of exerting your lands.
Yeah. Very thematic.
Yeah, very. Is that all the mechanics we have? There is one more card that I'd like to sort of talk about. The Hydra. There's a 3/3 for 4, and it's another Amonkhet Hydra, which don't get +1/+1 counters because we don't have +1/+1 counters in Amonkhet. Mm-hmm. Am I the only person who's bothered by Hydras not getting +1 counters?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I mean, it still seems kind of sweet. It's a 3/3 for 4 with Vigilance, Reach, and Trample. And as long as you control a desert, it gets +1. And as long as there is a desert in your graveyard, it gets +1. So it could potentially be a 5/5 Vigilance, Reach, Trample.
For 4?
Yeah.
For 4.
And given that those deserts cycle...
Yeah. Much easier to get into your graveyard than it would be normally.
So, yeah, it's pretty neat.
So that's one of the creatures that you were talking about caring about deserts. Mm-hmm. Anything else that we care to talk about for spoilers?
I don't think so.
Not really. No. There's still a lot coming out. I think everyone's trying to keep the hype up, despite the fact that there have been leaks both for this set and for Ixalan, kind of stealing it.
And that's... I mean, we're going to talk about this in the main section, but it's very, very difficult to be excited about this that I want to be excited about when I can't share it with the internet because they're all talking about the next set.
Yeah.
You know?
Fair.
I don't know.
So the next thing we wanted to talk about is something that came out during the news week last week.
Okay.
So, Step, you're a big Morrow fanboy. Did you want to take it away?
So, Morrow came back at... He got in a fight.
No. Well, first of all, somebody had asked him if, what the plan was for Dominaria, and he said the plan was just to give the plane a more cohesive identity, which is...
That's
fine.
Fair. We spent a lot of time on Dominaria. Like, when it was first spoiled, I think we talked about this 2 weeks ago, I was like, I don't know how I feel about going back to Dominaria when it's not really a cohesive plane the way the other ones are.
Yeah.
And so this is a common concern. And someone posted to, is this Tumblr? A question saying... he was concerned about them giving Dominaria a cohesive identity because he didn't want it to become a one-trick pony that it becomes like this is the plane of X, the way Amonkhet is the Egyptian plane, and Mirrodin is the
artifact plane,
sci-fi artifact plane. Yeah. And Morrow came back with a fairly concise, even if it is lengthy, discussion about how depth doesn't need to mean complexity.
Well, you say discussion. It wasn't really a discussion. There's no back and forth here. Morrow is... I thought he didn't take the concern seriously, which is something if we were to have a lengthy discussion about Morrow, that would be my main criticism of him, is that he doesn't take criticism very well, and Tumblr is also not the greatest place to actually have that sort of discussion.
Really? I thought he handled it very well. I thought he made it clear that he was taking the concern seriously, especially in the last part, saying, "Please have faith, we love Dominaria too," was how he ended it up. And
but he doesn't really talk about why there would be this concern, which I think is a reasonable concern to have. He's just kind of dismissive of the whole idea. At least that was my take on it. But I mean, the overall takeaway, I think, is just that they are trying to make it into a good plane to revisit. Yeah.
Now, I don't think you can say that he was dismissive when he spent a good, 7-8 paragraphs talking about the concern of making it into just one thing, a one-trick pony, because he was addressing the concern directly, saying that there's...
Well, he completely ignored the second half of the question, which was, as you've done with other worlds in the past.
As you've been doing with every world that you've invented post 8th edition era. Yeah, but he was explaining why that's actually better. It's actually better to have cohesion rather than randomness.
Mm-hmm. Except that's kind of the same as you saying, "Oh, I have this concern," and you saying, "Oh, well, that's not really a concern."
Yeah,
which is invalidating the person's opinion.
So I feel like what we have here isn't that he's invalidating the opinion, but that he's addressing it and saying, "I disagree," and that's not the same as invalidating somebody's opinion.
Well, except I feel like he doesn't even address at least half of the concern, which to me is not, "I disagree with it," it's, "I don't believe it's valid," which is not the best way to discuss anything. It's just the best way kind of to summarize your point, which is what is necessary for Tumblr. I think probably what we could do is just have a deeper discussion about the way that Wizards forces Morrow basically to be the public face of the company and to respond to all of these questions, when most companies would have an actual PR person.
Yeah.
As I said to Laura when we were talking about this a tiny bit earlier, it must be very difficult for him in the position he's in, because I know for me, and I'm not creating things that are worldwide, consumed, he probably thinks of all of this content as his children. So it's
he said so on multiple occasions.
So it's very easy to become emotionally connected, not only to, like we can't see the work they do. He's there. He knows how much effort and work goes in, so it must hit on a real emotional level when he feels that somebody thinks they're not doing the job they should be doing. It must be like, but I'm there all the time, and we work so hard, and you guys just don't see, and this is my baby. So to have to be the person always in the front line, that must be a very difficult juggling act for somebody to do.
Especially when he also has an actual full-time job.
Yeah, you'd think that they would pick out an actual business person who isn't emotionally connected to the product, but I can understand why. I mean, he loves a lot of this stuff.
I think they want someone who is connected to the product. I think that's
passionate.
Part of the reason that so many PR departments are so lame and terrible.
Well,
is that they're not emotionally invested.
Maybe, but like I said, I think that would be an interesting discussion.
Mm-hmm.
So
what else
we should
got?
have it at some point in the future.
Exactly. So I think that's pretty much it for news.
Okay.
So just before we talk about ourselves, Steph, you wanted to give us another new player update.
Yep. So news from the new players. I have been getting pictures of decks being built and products being bought.
Ooh.
And there was a thing like they bought a whole bunch of just random Magic products, and I got a picture of it all with the headline, "I blame you for this," which, okay, fair enough. And I'm probably going to put pictures up in the
The gallery on the
gallery, like I
website?
said, to showcase.
Link in the description.
Yeah, what new players can get into. They also bought a what's it called?
The Arch Enemy
Nicol Bolas, which I haven't bought, but am still thinking about. But they did lend it to me for an unboxing, so that will be going up probably Monday on the YouTube channel, which you should also check out because it's full of interesting goodies. Mm-hmm. So yeah, the new players are thoroughly hooked. I have suggested Pack Wars to them because I haven't been over to play Magic since. Mm-hmm. So we'll see what happens in future.
Nice. So moving on to us, I guess chronologically, we'll start with me.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I was at F&M last week.
And we were not.
No.
So, I don't know. The pod I was in, again, a fair number of new players, not just Amonkhet, but also to drafting. So, weird signals. I wasn't quite sure what colors I was supposed to be in, so I was basically like 4 colors until the middle of pack 3, which is not necessarily the place you want to be. But I ended up drafting a Second Sun deck, or Seventh Sun, and I ended up going 1 and 2, but my deck was both solidly mediocre and had my single win condition, basically, been anywhere in the top half of my deck.
You would have won more games.
I would have won. I would have gone 3-0.
Okay.
If I'd had it in the top part of my deck for literally 1 game out of each of the 2 matches that I lost, I would have won because I was more than halfway through and I had time. If I'd gotten it a couple turns sooner.
That's the problem with build-arounds.
Yes.
But hi, Draft Cat.
Did you get anything else interesting in your pool?
I got a foil sensor.
Ooh.
I got a Drakehaven.
Ooh.
So, nothing super exciting. But the deck was fun. I was concerned about the amount of cycling I didn't think I had.
Okay.
But I blazed right through my deck most of the time.
Yeah, it doesn't take as much as you think.
Yeah.
Like, it even a couple of extra draws really makes a big difference in Limited.
Yeah, so like I said, I don't think my deck was even a particularly good version of it, especially because I didn't get the card until halfway through pack 3. And by that point, I had blue cards and white cards. I was like, I'm going for it.
So it wasn't like that time that LSV drafted the completely terrible deck and then just happened to get past the Second Sun and he's like, oh, my deck is amazing now.
It might be exactly like that. But it was still really fun. I think that the card is like legit amazing.
Yeah.
Just because sometimes you just win the game. I had an opponent who had 2 black cartouches, got himself up to 42 life, and I did not care because we both knew he was on a 2-turn clock.
Feels so good. So good.
I felt great.
Yeah.
He took it like a champ.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I played with Approach of the Second Sun, it was exactly that. I was up against the shop owner, and he was like, ha, I'm beating you down. And then I was like, Approach. And he's like, oh, I'm on a 7-turn clock.
And then you're like, cycle, Naga Oracle. That was a 1-turn clock?
Yeah.
Yep. So it was interesting. And then the 3 of us were lucky enough to have a friend open a box of Amonkhet and allow us to draft.
Free drafts are always amazing.
I had the most bonkers deck. It was so funny. I was base blue-green with Bounty of the Luxa and a Weaver of Currents. And I was splashing white for a cast out off of a single cycling land and a plains that I put in there for my cultivator to get if I needed to. And a Glorybringer. which I was also splashing, she said in giant quotation marks, off of, what, I think I had 4 mountains, the cultivator, and I had something else to tap for mana. And, oh yeah, I had the enchantment aura that enchants the land.
Gift of Paradise?
That one. So, I wouldn't say
splashing Glorybringer off of Gift of Paradise seems to be a common event in this
I
set.
wouldn't say it was the best idea, but come on, you're gonna do it. And I didn't get the Glorybringer until I opened it in pack 3.
Yeah.
So, by then I was definitely not red, except for how I totally went red.
Yep.
And my deck worked really well. I lost to somebody who was running a very aggressive deck in the first round. Yes, I'm looking at you, Step.
I forgot.
And the only reason was just that I was a turn too slow.
Yeah.
Basically.
I had basically the nut draw in 2 games.
Yeah.
And my deck did not cooperate that well for the rest of the night, although I still managed to eke out some wins.
Yeah, which is sad, because I ended up crushing my other 2 opponents. Just Glorybringer is so oppressive.
Well, sad for me.
To be fair, my next game, I was playing against our good friend Evan, who was running also blue-green ramp turtle sandworm convergence.
Oh, good.
And of course he was sitting...
What? Evan playing a crazy kooky deck?
He was, of course, sitting directly to my left, and we were in the same
That is
main
unheard
colors,
of.
Yup.
which is pretty common as well for Evan. And I dirtled quicker than him. Bounty of the Alexa just got me more card draw and more mana ramp quicker than his Sandworm Convergence. Mm-hmm. So it just worked out a bit better for me. And then, of course, with all the green decks in this format, I had an amazing top end. And Scale Behemoth, which was my pack 1 pick one, is a legit bomb.
Yep, it's very good.
I think it might be my favorite card of the set. It just does exactly what you want it to every time.
So weird. And is your second favorite card in the set going to be Colossipede?
Maybe, actually. That's probably my favorite vanilla creature of this whole set. I love Colossipede. It just does exactly what you want it to.
You just like the beef, Laura.
Look, yes, that is true. My first commander deck was the mono-green Fraley's deck. My first standard deck was the red-green dragon deck. I like my beef, okay? So, you'll notice that's exactly what my league deck is. It is big green mono beef, except also a couple of black cards for removal.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah, so it was super fun. What about you guys?
Well, I managed to crush Laura in 2 in the first round.
It wasn't even close. Well, no, it was close, but it was strong defeats each time, just too quickly.
Yeah. So I opened, I don't even remember, but I think I ended up taking, Glorybound Initiate was my first pick. And I thought, okay, this is a solid pick. Let's see where it goes.
Sure.
I then proceeded to cut white extremely hard in the first pack. But the drafter to my, what is that, left? Yes. Doesn't seem to care about signals at all. And so went directly into white.
Of course.
White-black, which was my second color. So we were fighting for white-black right next to each other. And I even passed him. It was Glorybound Initiate, Electrify, Magma Jet in that pack.
So 2 A removal cards.
So I'm like, alright, white is good. I know red is good too, but I'm going to take the white card. I will pass hard signal that red is open and just ship red his way. But no, he took the black-white instead. So in pack 2...
And then many other people at the table were black.
Yeah, and then a lot of other people were black. So for removal in my deck, I have a Trial of Ambition, 2 Compulsory Rest, and I think that's it.
I mean, it's
something. And a Dusk to Dawn. And a Cartouche of Ambition, I guess. But basically, I tried to go as low curve as possible and pick up as many anthems as I could. And that plan only kind of worked because I ended up with 2 semi-anthems. I got an Inoketra's Name and something else.
Pursue Glory?
The Talkrop Elite. And I had to... I thought while I was drafting I was going to either be mono-white splashing black or mono-white splashing red, but there wasn't quite enough for that, so I'm splashing both black and red.
Oh.
And I'm like, that's awkward. So my mana was very awkward, but I managed to win on most of my games on just drawing really well as far as land goes.
Sure.
I'm running a Stir the Sands mostly to cycle because it's single black instead of double black, and a zombie draw a card for 4 is still great. So when my mana was cooperating, I managed to get good wins. 2 Gustwalkers, 3 Binding Mummies. Did work.
Seems good. How about you, Tam?
So, I decided we've done a lot of Amonkhet.
Oh, yeah.
And I have not gotten to draft
Didn't you do an article about this?
Yeah, well, I'm not going to... Just
okay.
Let me get there. I decided, you know what? There is a color combination I have yet to do. I'm going to do it. I'm going to force it. I don't care. I'm going red-white. I'm going to force it so hard that nobody else is going to have a chance, and I'm going to play that deck. I don't care how bad it is.
Uh-huh.
So I wound up in black-blue.
Oh, yeah. I'm shocked. Steph, are you shocked?
Okay, so...
Approximately 50% of your decks this format have been black-blue.
But here's what happens.
The others are white.
Pack 1, Curator of Mysteries.
Which is the blue flyer.
4/4. No red, no white. Like, no red, no white at all. And I'm like...
Which does happen with these packs sometimes.
I'm like, okay, I'll just take it. Doesn't mean I have to play it. Red, white is still my thing. It's fine. Pack 2, Bone Picker. A little bit of red and a little bit of white, but completely not second pickable. And Bone Picker is just super good.
So I believe that you were directly to the left of both Step and the person Step was passing to, who's also forcing black-white,
Yes.
right?
There was one drafter in between us, and I think he ended up in red-blue? No, I don't know. No, he was also in black.
He must have gotten a really good black rare because I got the Bone Picker Pack 2. And I was like, okay, I will take the black. And then it just went like that. I started seeing more and more really solid blue flyers and stuff. And I'm like, and more importantly, there just wasn't the black or the white specifically or the red that I wanted. So I did wind up in a really sweet black-blue deck, which I'm going to stop talking about because it was my turn to write the article this month. And it's kind of amusing. And you can read about it on the website. Link is down below to find out what happened.
I mean, you can tell us some of how you did.
No, it's better to read about it because it's...
All right, fair enough.
I worked hard to be amusing.
That's right.
I thought it was fun.
So, a good time was had by all. And our card provider opened at least one of the cards that he was very much excited about.
Which is awesome.
Oh, which was Kefnet, which I had in my deck.
Nice.
Of course I did. Oh, yeah. I got to play him twice, and I got extreme value from him once, where he drew me a bunch of cards and hit my opponent in the face for 5.
See, there was also a drafter at the table who hasn't played since basically Return to Ravnica. And I thought that Kefnet would make it all the way to him.
Oh, no. I was directly to his right, and it was pack 2, so I would have passed it to him. I was not. I'm surprised it got by Evan, who it went to first, who was also in blue. But
yeah, it's just
he
not a
wasn't
great
in that
card.
Deck. It's perfect for my... Oh, did I mention I had Bounty the Luxa and the Archive that lets you draw... or play cards off the top of your deck?
Oh, yeah, the Sphinx, yeah, whatever it is.
Yeah, so I when I played against Evan,
Oracle's Fault.
I almost decked myself, simply because I was playing so many free cards.
Well, that's how I beat you.
It was beautiful.
I compulsory rested your Kefnet.
Yeah, I know. I remember.
Oh, that feels good. All right.
Moving on.
So, yeah, the next thing that, you guys did...
Yeah, so when we didn't go to F&M because we had stuff that we needed to get done, after we got stuff done, we ended up remembering that we had 1 day left to get in on the Duel of the Planes thing on Mitgo.
Mitgo's anniversary thing?
Sealed, the interplanar sealed.
The smorgasbord of sealed.
Oh man, was that fun. I really, really, really hope that somebody at Wizards Digital is listening to our podcast and decides to make that a regular annual thing or something, because I would play that again.
Okay, so here's the funny thing. I did not quite understand until we were playing the exact format because there were how many planes?
There were 5 planes involved.
So,
all of the ones that we have revisited at least once.
Yes. So you get to choose your plane, and then you get your sealed pool, and you build your deck, and you go. I had been under the mistaken impression that, like, if you choose Zendikar, you'll be paired up with all the others, people who chose Zendikar, so it's 5 different leagues running. No. You pick your plane, you build your sealed, and then they roll the dice, and you may get paired, Planar Chaos versus Zendikar.
So Dominaria versus Zendikar. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was crazy.
Yeah, so the 5 planes were Dominaria, Zendikar, Mirrodin, Ravnica, and Innistrad. Mm-hmm. And, like, the Ravnica one, which we did first, has a booster of Ravnica, Dissension, Guild Pact, Return to Ravnica, Gatecrash, Dragon's Maze. Mm-hmm. So 1 each of the sets that have been set there. So it's like a wild card draft. It's like a rainbow grab bag draft.
It was
sealed.
Ridiculous.
But with some cohesion.
Mm-hmm. Now, it was super fun and super challenging. The thing that I found difficult for me, like, you had to work today and I had to finish up 2 of the league matches. So first of all, I have next to zero experience running the client, and playing Amonkhet, that's one thing. It's with cards and card interactions that I'm very familiar with, and archetypes or mechanics that I'm very familiar with. Mm-hmm. But suddenly I'm faced with decks, cards, mechanics that I don't know, and so I'm not exactly sure how Mitgo handles these certain things, like if you click here then here or here then here, because we've been messed up many times, even just in new sets, where you think you do this but you don't, like with Exert. If you cannot just attack with all or you don't get to Exert.
Right.
And so I was really nervous about not being able to figure out that stuff. Also, when you don't know a lot of sets, it makes it really easy to make mistakes because you don't entirely read the card right. So it's really weird, but it was so fun because, again, we got to see these ridiculous cards and strange interactions and...
Yeah, and it's not just like, 6 of Mirrodin against 6 of Return to Ravnica or whatever.
No.
So you can't even just look at a single set and see, okay, this is what they could possibly have. You have to look at 6 different sets, and it's just not worth it. You just dive in and see what happens.
And the deck that I came up against was ridiculous. It could have been a drafted deck because he had this fantastic 4/4 card that flips, and when you sack it's sack a creature, sack a human, it flips and becomes a 9/9 flying trample. And at the beginning of your upkeep, you have to sack a human. And he had so many humans and things that pulled from the graveyard and all this removal, and it all very well interacted. So I'm not sure if the set he was playing just happened to be incredibly synergistic, or he was just a luck sack.
Probably both. Innistrad was certainly synergistic, but then again, with this particular format, it's pretty much singleton.
Yeah.
The odds of you getting a duplicate card are pretty small. You'd have to open a foil, basically.
That's it.
Archdemon of Greed. So we have Ravenous Demon. I remember this guy. It's from Dark Ascension.
Oh, he is amazing and brutal, and I just was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah. I'm sorry if people missed out on it, because it was so much fun.
On the other hand, couldn't be that hard to put together on your own.
No, I wouldn't.
No, that's fair.
It might be a little expensive, depending on what you choose.
Sure.
Well, yeah, and I have boosters that I've been looking at doing something like this in for a while, but I don't have, I wanted to do Zendikar and Alara, and those are all very expensive, but I might throw together something at some point that is just, maybe even curate, singles into boosters.
Yeah, that
might be doable.
That could be super fun.
I don't know.
So,
I'll check.
but we are going to be posting the RTR sealed tonight, so you can check out how
yesterday.
Yeah, yesterday.
Magic.
Yeah, so that'll be fun.
So then next up, I went to League yesterday, which was Tuesday.
And we did not.
So it was week 6, which is our final week. Next week is the playoffs. But if you didn't make it yesterday, You do have until, I think, Friday or Saturday to get all your matches caught up.
We'll check in Friday night because we're going to F&M this week.
Yeah, so I had a great evening. I mean, I did really well, but also I happened to open up a mouth to feed last week, which was perfect for my deck. And so I got to play with it, and it's perfect for my deck.
Who knew?
It always drew me at least 2 cards. And so it drew me 2 cards once and then 4 cards twice.
Mm-hmm.
So pretty good. And yeah, I went 4-0, and most of my games were with 2 matches.
That's pretty good.
I'm feeling pretty good going into the top 8. I'm either first or second, which just means the way we do the tournaments that I will get to choose if I'm on the play or on the draw for most of the matches, which is pretty relevant in this aggressive format.
Well, we are definitely rooting for you.
Well, thank you. And I'm hopeful that at least one of you guys will be able to come out for the consolation bracket if you don't make the top 8.
Yeah, so 9th to 16th also playoff for prizes, which is sweet.
Yeah.
Tams, I think you still have a shot of getting in the top 8, like squeaking into 8th spot. So
It's possible. We usually have 1 or 2 people who aren't able to make the tournament.
We'll see.
you might want to make sure to get your matches in Friday.
Yeah, I'll be there to do the games. So
And
that'll be
then,
fun.
kind of lastly, just before we move on, you guys have registered for GP Toronto.
Yeah, we have.
Have
So-
you not registered yet?
Not yet.
Okay.
I'm not too worried about it.
Yeah, fair enough.
So it's coming up in just about a month,
Mm-hmm.
and it's in Toronto, obviously.
It will be my first GP.
Me too.
I had thought about going to GP Montreal, I think last year, 2 years ago, but didn't end up making it out. But GP Toronto is quite a bit closer.
Yeah.
And it is limited, so I am super excited about that.
Yeah.
It'll be just after Hour of Devastation comes out, so since we are going to be doing a set review, we will be ahead of the game as far as knowing what all the cards do.
Well, we'll see about that. You have already registered for one of the pre-releases, but Tams and I will be out of town.
Yeah.
Well, I will let you know how it goes.
And hopefully we will have the chance to do some online sealed before.
I'll also let the listeners know how it goes.
I'm sure.
But if we have any listeners out there who want to meet us at the GP, you'll have to find us. We'll be in disguise.
Or probably most of you already know us, so...
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's fair.
That's true.
So that's pretty much it for what we've been doing. So it's a bit of a long episode just because of the spoilers, but one thing that we wanted to talk about was kind of relevant to pretty much every Magic player I've ever spoken to.
Yeah. So I mentioned that we didn't go to F&M and we didn't go to League, and that's mostly on me because I have been feeling burnt out lately. For various reasons. I've been feeling burnt out over working too hard on all of our various projects, but that's separate from feeling burnt out on Magic in general. I love Magic. I love to play Magic. I love to be involved in Magic. I love spoiler season. I love the whole thing. But for 2 separate sort of qualities, I have been feeling overwhelmed or underwhelmed or just sort of whelmed. I don't know how to explain it, but
Is it like a whelming wave?
it
Wow.
might be.
That was terrible.
Thank you.
So I feel bad to admit this, but I am going to admit it because that's the first step toward making things better, right?
That's right.
I have been losing a lot recently. And that makes me feel not great about wanting to play. I've been losing a lot with a very sweet sealed pool. It's been variants or better decks, or like we did a bad idea draft last night online, and it was a bad idea because we were not playing well because it was like midnight. So all of that combined makes me kind of about going out, even though I still know that I love Magic and I think about it all the time.
And you like the store?
I love the shop we go to. I love the people who are there. It has nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with my not being an effective Magic player at the moment.
It's interesting to me because I can completely commiserate, because up until this set, I have been struggling with this for the last 2.5 years.
Yeah, on and off, you've had very bad variance issues, and
It's funny. I retweeted earlier this week a tweet from the Journey into Nyx pre-release event,
pre-release,
and that I won. And I was like, wow, it was a long time ago that I was a good Magic player. And I remember when Laura came to the store and everybody's like, oh, another girl. Be careful with Tams. She'll stomp you.
Yep.
But it's been a long time since I've had that kind of consistency. It's been a lot better this set, I'm finding. And I think part of it is also my attitude has changed a lot.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that I think doesn't help is not only do we do this podcast, which we love to do, but we also do Magic Channel, and it, as much as you love it, it is an obligation, a commitment that we've made.
Yeah.
We're drafting F&M more than we ever have. We are, every weekend, it seems like we're doing some event. Mm-hmm. Plus now, all of your other friends that you're making, it's all about magic. So, and all of the content we watch tends to end up being magic related.
But even still, like, we are, 3 weeks away from, maybe 4? No, three weeks away from Hour of Devastation.
2.5 weeks from the pre-release.
2.5 weeks from Hour of Devastation, and I'm just now getting to the point where if someone said, hey, you want to draft Amonkhet, I'd have to think about it before saying yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You know? Up until this point, I'm like, this is such a great set. Mm-hmm. And I've enjoyed it, mm-hmm. but and I've done my fair share of winning in draft too. It's like,
but you guys have both taken breaks from the game before, haven't you?
Not because we wanted to.
I have not taken a break from the game since I restarted playing seriously.
Well, we took a break from going out to shop. Like, we skipped all of Shadows because we couldn't afford to play.
For financial reasons, but we were still steeped in Magic.
Yeah, we were still doing other stuff, but
yeah,
because I had something similar happen, and I haven't even been playing that long. I've been playing now for pretty much exactly 2 years, mm-hmm. and I took pretty much all of Aether Revolt off. Mm-hmm. I didn't really like the set. I was bored of Kaladesh. I didn't love the mechanics. I just wasn't something I wanted to spend time and or money on.
That's fair.
So I didn't even watch too many, streamers who were doing Magic, anything like that. But
if someone during that time had said, hey, I'm doing a cube, what would you have...
Oh, well, look, you can't... If someone had said, hey, I'm drafting Aether Revolt, would you like to come? I'd probably be like, and then it would depend on how I felt that day.
Sure.
I will always draft cube. So that's not a really good point. Okay. But I think it's normal. That's what the core set used to be. Was a time where all of the regular drafters could just take a month off because they'd already mastered the core set, and they would just take a break, refresh themselves, go out, do summer stuff, and then come back raring to go for the fall set.
Maybe that's a hidden benefit of the core sets that I hadn't thought about. Mm-hmm. That's a really interesting point.
Yeah, because, when Origins came out, did you draft the whole time?
No, we drafted a little bit.
And did you feel guilty about taking the time off?
Origins specifically, I basically only drafted blue because that was what was forced on me, to the point where I've said this before, but I passed a pack 1 Soulblade Djinn because I'd had it like 4 times, and I'm like, oh god. And then I lost that draft, and then I felt miserable. But that was variance again,
Do you wonder also if we are at this point in our Magic playing where we're like ready to take that next step up?
I have been ready to take that next step for a while,
but when you combine it with the fact that, as you said, you've been losing so much, is it that, well, do I even bother? Why am I putting all of this effort into a thing and now I'm not doing well?
Oh, I absolutely feel that sometimes. Mm-hmm. Right up until I sit down and crack a pack.
And you smell that sweet, fresh
cardboard crack.
Yeah. Yep. There's a lot of... I don't have enough time to dedicate to going to the next step. Mm-hmm. And I really, really want to. But I can't. Just life is in the way right now. So I'm compensating by drafting online and producing a Magic podcast and doing those things that sort of get me to a similar mindset without being able to actually dedicate myself to.
Sure, and it can be really tough having those expectations for yourself.
It is, yeah. And that's something that maybe I need to chill out and take a breather and just say, you know, it's okay to play the game for fun.
Sure, and I do that sometimes, like, you know, with a cube draft, or even just a for fun draft, like the one that we had on Saturday. I'll be like, I know that is a terrible idea to force Grixis because I've opened Nicol Bolas, but I'm giving myself permission to go 0-3, and I'm drafting a deck I want.
If I ever open either Cruel Ultimatum or Nicol Bolas in my first cube pack, that is going to be my pick.
But I think it's all right to just give yourself permission sometimes to not do well, to fail.
Yeah.
To try something that you don't think is going to work, but you want to see what happens.
I don't do that enough.
I have a hard time doing that because I'm a bit of a type A perfectionist.
Yes, you are our Spike here.
Yeah, it was very hard, to be perfectly honest, having you come to the shop because I'm like, there's another girl. And, oh my gosh, and then to watch you...
To our listeners, I'm a very, very intimidating looking person.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Just look at her picture. She's so
look
cute.
At her picture. She's...
but no, just from a competitive kind of place, I was the only girl really that played at the shop, and then to see you come in while I'm still struggling to do anything.
Not be the token girl.
And then jump way ahead and be so consistent in your winning. It's very humbling and it's very difficult. It had been. And then as I got to know you, I was able to acknowledge that our personality types are different in a lot of ways. You're a much more emotionally contained player, where it takes a lot for you to finally go, you know what, table flip, I'm done.
Literally only happened once.
Yes. Whereas me, I am so competitive with myself and so worried about everything, how I come across, what the other person's thinking, that it's very difficult for me sometimes to do poorly. And it's not that I'm a bad loser. It's I feel like I failed.
You're an emotional loser.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. So it's been having you come to the shop has been the best thing for me because it's been a real good learning experience. And I think that's part of why I'm now relaxed enough to start playing better, to be playing more consistently, to be eking out those moments where variants would have gotten me before, but now I can see kind of an alternative thing to it.
I'm happy that they're, like I said, and I think I hope the microphone missed it, but you were sort of at that point the token girl in the shop. That's what kind of felt like, because you were the only one.
Yeah.
And then there was Laura. And now there are at least 2 other girls who draft or come out to pre-releases. Yeah, women. Who come out to pre-releases or draft or do standard events.
And are not just there because they're somebody's boyfriend.
Right.
No, they
come
are
on their own.
Very dedicated to learning and getting better.
There's the
players.
boyfriend who comes by to see his girlfriend play sometimes.
Yeah.
I think that's cute.
Which is awesome.
I think that's a really good trend. It's a positive...
It's felt really good for me because it's just really nice. And to be perfectly honest, we are so fortunate to play at a shop where I have never felt like, oh, she's a girl playing.
Yeah.
Everyone has always treated me as, you know, one of the players, one of the guys, and treat you the same as everybody else, and I've never had that experience in the shop, so... Yeah,
the only time I remember you saying you felt... othered was in a competitive event in Toronto.
Yeah.
You know?
And that was a couple of times in that event, and it was frustrating, and it was eye-opening because I'd never experienced that before.
But that's hundreds of people were there.
Absolutely, and I met just as many nice people, so...
Yeah.
And surely the people being rude were American anyway.
So there's another aspect of burnout that I want to talk about briefly, because... it's something that I think is much more difficult to fix, but I'm getting burnt out on products.
Oh, me too. So much.
Like, I want to just take a moment to talk about, and I know we're not the first to talk about this, but Eternal Masters and Modern Masters 3 just came out this year. What, like 3 months apart? Less than?
Something like that.
And I was like, shrug? And then they've announced that Iconic Masters
Yep.
and Masters
M25
25 are both coming out, and we don't know anything about them, and I'm like...
Plus there's the Commanders
Shrug?
Anthology, plus there's Archenemy, plus there's the Ixalan Explorers, plus
And Plane Chase
Conspiracy
came out
just
not
came
too
out,
long ago.
plus all of the sets, plus all of the dual decks,
Plus the
oh my
unset.
god, I have literally had to stop caring about the Master Series for my own mental health.
And that's the thing. I want to care. I want to care about each and every one of these products. If half the amount of products were released, I would buy all of them. As it is, with the amount of products that are being released, I'm considering not buying the Commander series when it comes out.
Yeah, why bother when you can't keep up with it?
Right.
I mean, the whole point
I'm
of
a
Magic
collector.
is that it's a collector's thing.
And it's
just too much, too fast.
Oh, yeah.
it is. And from that collecting point of view, I don't want to be a naysayer here, but man, it's tough keeping enthusiasm about all of the products that are coming out. And even the ones that I should, by rights, be incredibly excited about, like the Return to Dominaria or the third Unset.
Mm-hmm.
I'm having trouble because I'm just burnt out on the amount of products that are coming out.
Yeah,
It's
and
like, oh, that's another sweet thing, sure, yeah.
I think it might be easier for some players because they only consider themselves to be Commander players, or they only consider themselves to be Modern players. And
Yeah.
so for them, there's only those sets that they have to care about. But for most of us, I would say, like the majority of people who show up to F&M for like Limited, we're supposed to kind of care about all of it.
So for the majority of Magic players in the world, I'd say it's probably not an issue because most of those are kitchen table people and would
Sure.
be like, oh, that looks like a sweet product,
dragons.
maybe I'll buy it.
Ooh, Sphinxes.
Right.
Ooh, let me buy this card.
For that intermediate kind of group, which we fall into, where
Yeah.
we're the Friday night drafters every week, basically, it's tough because you can't say to Wizards you're printing too much stuff because people are buying it, so obviously they've got numbers that say
And they are trying to hit different markets with their products.
And I've never cared about like the From the Vault series, which is fine, but to have Iconic Masters and Magic 25, they're going to be 3 months from each other, and I'm not sure which one to care about, so I'm probably not going to care about either.
Yeah.
You know?
And then the Unset, are you going to buy a box so you can draft with your friends?
I am, but it's going to not feel as good as if it were the only thing that coming out at that time, I guess. I don't know. It's like I say, it's just burnout. Maybe it'll pass. I hope it'll pass.
But it definitely wasn't like this when I started.
No, it wasn't. They were doing 1 or 2 extra products a year.
Now,
when the first Modern Masters came out, it was like, oh man, this is a supplementary product that's interesting.
Now, can we chalk this up perhaps to the fact, just to play devil's advocate here, that this is their 25th year and they're really trying to push a celebratory feeling and push all of these products on us celebrating
Well,
this...
if they wanted to do that, they should have given us a break this year.
Yeah.
Like, I only
say
have so
so.
much money I can allocate to Magic. If they say, oh, you should save, up some money, not save your money from buying Magic this year, but just save up money for next year.
Yeah.
Maybe. But they're like, oh, we're throwing a bunch of stuff at you, and we're throwing even more stuff at you next year.
And then there's no reason to believe it won't get even crazier the year after, And most of this stuff is actually not next, well, some of it's next year, but like the Unset is December of this year,
Yeah.
It's just, yeah, it's tough. That, and, I mean, it feels in a way like Wizards is doing what Morrow says new developers do. If you listen to him talk about development theory, his first set that he designed by himself had about 3 times as many mechanics in it as it needed,
Yeah.
And then those mechanics were used for the next 4 sets.
Yeah.
Because it was like, whoa, slow down. Do the minimum that you need to make an awesome product so that you can make more awesome products later.
Yeah, too much too soon.
And I don't know that this is connected, but the amount of leaks that there have been this year...
This month,
but like in this season, I guess, I feel like somebody's letting something slip, or they're being lackadaisical, and it's going to come back and bite them. Because I'm getting tired of being excited about new products. And I don't want to be in that place.
Yeah.
You know?
It's hard because if it were something different, you know, it's almost a really hard place to be in when you're complaining that there's too much fun to be had. But
I know, first world problems, right?
Absolutely. But I mean, I think it's a really, really deep rabbit hole. I think there's a lot going on. I think there could be, you know, trying to grab more people into the game by branching out and doing other extra stuff and striking while the iron's hot with the nostalgia of it being around for 25 years. So let's have all of this awesome product because you may get those players like our friend who hasn't played forever might see, you know, Magic 25 and being like, oh my gosh, there's probably going to be stuff in there from when I was playing. Same with the unset. So I'm sure there's so many reasons, and I don't...
But I wish that it was either Modern or Eternal Masters or Conspiracy, you know,
sure. Yeah.
per year, so that I could care about all of it.
Yeah, and though I think it might boil down to they're really trying to connect with different people. We just happen to be that subsection that enjoys a multitude of different genres of Magic.
Yeah, could be.
Yeah, but, you know, I guess it would just depend on whether or not they're making up for it in other players, where they're burning out some of their core players.
Yeah, I don't know.
But
we're going to find out.
Yeah, I mean, strategically, there's only so much you can do. Like, you can just choose to focus on certain sets that you are genuinely excited about.
Well, I'm not going to make any judgments about the Masters sets until I have more information.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm,
you know?
for sure.
I am going to buy the Commander set this year. It's only 4 decks, and I'm interested about which tribes they choose because I love Commander decks. Even though I don't play Commander that much, and really the format as it's becoming so competitive interests me less. I just want to sit down with kitchen table Commander players and play kitchen table Commander. You know?
Like you did on Saturday.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh man, maybe I should talk about that for a second because I don't even remember. Yeah, I know it's a long episode. It's not as long as last week's. I don't even remember what happened, but there was a 3-player Commander game where
This was after the draft.
Yeah, after the draft, I finally got to play Kinios and Tiro of Miletus in a multiplayer game.
Instead of getting stomped by me in 1v1.
Yeah. And we all had... I was just like, yep, we're just going to have 8 lands on turn 3. All of us. Let's do this thing. And that made for a very interesting game. So, yeah.
So you still are enjoying Magic?
Oh, I'm enjoying Magic when I'm playing it. Yeah. It's just the out-of-game experiences that are causing me pause. So... there's some breathers to take there,
I think so.
Yep.
But I just wanted to sort of touch on that because burnout is real. I believe it does affect everyone at some point.
Yep.
And there might not be much that I can do right now about the product burnout, but finding ways to deal with the general me burnout, I think I can handle.
And we have one very fun thing that we're going to do to help you with your burnout is we're going to cube on Saturday.
Are we?
Yeah.
That'll be a palate cleanser.
Yeah.
And you know what? When the core set comes out, I think that too will be a palate cleanser.
Yeah.
I think that should be just
Because they specifically design it for the newer players, knowing that the experienced players are going to take a break.
Yeah.
So I think it'll be fun.
I just mean drafting it a couple of times. It'll be like, this is magic.
Something different, yeah.
That's what I'm hoping.
Yeah.
All right. So is there anything else we wanted to cover?
No, I guess if you've stuck around for this long, thank you for listening.
And let us know if you have any tips or strategies on burnout.
Mm-hmm. Or if you agree with us or disagree with us on anything that we've mentioned today, you know where to reach us. You can find all the links to our social media in the show notes or in the description if you're watching this on YouTube. You can find all of our magic stuff in various places. Mm-hmm. So thanks very much for listening.
Yep.
And enjoy some magic.
Mm-hmm.